Hello and welcome back to the Lavender Nest. Today I am going to show you how I refinished this dresser. This is one that I found on the curb, so there were a few surprises along the way, and it certainly needed an overhaul to get it looking nice and beautiful again. Even though this piece looked a little rough, I could tell the hardware was so unique and beautiful, and it was solid wood, so there was beauty behind all these stickers and things that had been attached. So here you can see they had placed some sort of like hockey team stickers. So I tried using Goo Gone on it, where you just pour a little bit onto a cloth and sort of soak it into the sticker and let it sit for a few minutes. It worked okay. The top layer of the sticker peeled off, but I was having trouble with the under layers. So I put a little bit more Goo Gone on this afterwards, and then I decided I had to go back in with my scraper and really get in there. The downside to using a scraper is I definitely scraped off some of the veneer top on this while I was doing it, but I knew that these stickers needed to come off, and that's how I had to do it. That was okay. I could go back and repair it afterwards. Now this part was so funny to me. These were like little placards from Perlator, and they had a London and New York placard on here. It was so stuck on. It was really challenging to get off. I just used a small flathead screwdriver to start lifting it and then peeled the rest. Please don't ever do this to your furniture. This is so sad. After peeling those off, I went back in with my scraper just to get any of that glue residue that had been left on there, and there was a lot. These caused a lot of damage to this dresser. Now that I've got all those stickers and decorations, we'll call them, off of this dresser, it's time to go in and give it a really good clean. So I'm using a product that has TSP in it. You can use anything that will remove grease. Dawn dish soap mixed with water works great. And I like to pay extra special attention to any piece that I do get from the side of the road, because you really don't know what sort of dirt and grime is on that dresser. And just look at this cloth. That's just from the top of the dresser. So now I'm going back in and I'm going to remove all the hardware and clean the drawers really well, inside and out. Now that I've got everything cleaned, I'm going to sand this by hand. I'm using a 150 grit sandpaper, and I've just wrapped it around an old sanding block. That just helps give you a little bit extra to grip onto so the paper's not sliding around under your hand. I'm going to go through and give the entire dresser a really nice scuff sanding. Then once I've sanded everything, I'm going back in with a damp cloth and just wiping away all the dust. While you're cleaning and sanding, it's a great opportunity to see any little nicks and scratches that need to be repaired. So in this case, I found a few on the surface. So I'm just going in with a putty and filling those. So I'm going to leave those to dry and start working on the drawers. So I am going to prime these using my Zinsser Bin shellac-based primer. This primer is going to lock in any stains, any wood tannins from coming up to the surface, and I really want to make sure I get a good layer or two of this product onto these drawers because I'm planning to paint this dresser white, so I really don't want any stains or colors coming up through it. And I'm just using a roller to apply this. It goes on pretty easily, but you want to use something that you would be okay throwing out. The only way to clean this product off your brushes and rollers is by using ammonia, and that's just not something that I typically have on hand. So I wrap my brushes in plastic, use them as many times as I can, and then when it's time, they have to be thrown out. So now you can see that putty has turned from pink to white, so it is dry and ready to be sanded. I'm going back in with that same 150 grit sandpaper just to smooth everything out before I put on the primer. Now I'm going to apply primer to the entire body of the dresser. Now I'm going back in and just really lightly sanding the top of it. I'm not pressing down very hard. I'm just trying to knock down any texture that may have formed or any bumps or streaks that are there from the roller. Now, a lot of the time I'm working by myself in this little room of our house, and these dressers are heavy. These solid wood dressers are not easy to move on your own. So I've got these great little wheels, these like caster wheels that you just put underneath each of the legs, and then you can roll the dresser fairly easily. If the floor is uneven, it doesn't work great, but it moves, and that is what I needed. Since I am going to be using my spray gun for this and I am going to be inside, I am going to use my Wagner spray tent. And this tent is great. It is a pop-up tent. It folds down, super small, so it's easy to store. And I kept this in real time so that you could see really how easy this is to set up. for this project, I'm going to be using a Fusion Mineral paint in the color Raw Silk. So this is just a really natural white color. I'm pouring this right into the cup that attaches onto my spray gun, and there is no need to filter this paint down or to put any water to it to dilute it. It's a perfect consistency to spray through a spray gun like this. So I typically start by doing a few test sprays just off to the side before I actually start spraying my dresser. And I like to start spraying off of the dresser and then slowly move my hand towards the dresser. Sometimes the first spray, there might be a little bit of residue of paint on the tip of it, and that can cause the paint to sputter a little bit and you'll get too much texture on your piece. So I'm just going back and forth slowly. It's hard to tell the coverage here, but it is really good coverage with the first coat of paint, and just slowly back and forth, trying to keep the same distance the entire time from the piece. Now I'm just going in and lightly sanding over where there was a little bit of texture or sputtering or paint drips, just to clean that up. You don't always have to do this in between coats, but there was just a few spots that I noticed needed to be smoothed out, so I'm just going over the entire dresser just to be sure. Now I'm going back in with my second coat of paint. Sometimes what happens in between coats is the tip of the paint sprayer will have a little bit of dried paint on it, so I usually just keep a damp cloth nearby to wipe that off if that happens. And again, this paint has such good coverage, so 2 coats was all I was going to need to cover this beautifully. And I should mention, whenever I am spraying paint indoors or outdoors, I make sure to wear a respirator just to keep me extra safe. Now, I didn't get a shot of me filling up my paint sprayer with this product, but this is my top coat. I'm using a polyacrylic in clear satin. I will add a link to the product I used in the description below. You don't need to use it on Fusion Mineral paint. They have a built-in top coat. But with dressers and anything that I know is going to be a high-use item, I like to add at least 1 coat on the entire piece and 2 coats on the top. Now it is time to add this beautiful hardware back on. It was in amazing condition, so all I had to do was give it a quick wipe with some soap and warm water. Now it is time to stage this piece. So You can see my staging area, also known as my kitchen and dining room area, is very full of furniture and different projects that I'm working on. So I'm just clearing a bit of space so that I can get my photos and get this posted up on Marketplace. And it's a little bit of trial and error. I'm going to rearrange things a couple times and see what I think looks best. I really try just to keep it simple and sort of show someone what it could look like in their house. I always try to add one piece of greenery and one candle from a local shop. Typically I add a few books as well, just to make everything look nice and cozy. Once I have everything ready, it's time to take a few pictures and post it on Marketplace. I always make sure to include close-up shots of the piece, the dimensions, and where to pick it up. So this piece I found on the side of the road, fixed it up, and sold it for $300. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos.